You've heard the story of Helen of Troy, where they were fighting for just a woman. And one army used the same weapons that the other army was also good at. And according to that story, the war lasted for 10 years, a mythical story, I believe. So you need to use wisdom to beat a crazy man. You know, think about this. You're trying to use war to defeat a man who came by war. You should never expect things to end according to plan. Go and ask the leaders who tried that in other countries. How did it end for them? It ended very badly, and the whole country was just destroyed. In a situation of a civil war, nothing ever goes according to plan. Because in a civil war, everybody's their own master. So people who assume, and there are people from other countries who are trying to fund groups here in Kampala, militias, trying to raise militias. And God told me this. Listen, those who think that we shall do this and that, then we shall ascend to power, we shall destroy this and that, we shall come in with guns. Listen, in civil war, things don't work out as planned. You see? I was just telling you about South Sudan. Those who try to overthrow the government in South Sudan. Of course, they say that they didn't try to overthrow him, but things don't turn out well for them, and many of them are still crying, and they didn't become president. Those who try to overthrow the president of Libya, they're now fighting each other. Everyone wants the power now. And 10 years later, they're still fighting, and the nation is tattered. You should never fight a madman using the weapons he's very good at. Are you hearing me? Beat him with knowledge and wisdom. My heart bleeds when I see what is coming in this nation. You know, the mindset that Ugandans have is not right. You can literally prosper even without a change of government. I'm telling you this. I want political change. I want democracy. We love democracy. I love democracy. I love justice. I love peace. But I would like to think that my prosperity is not 100% or tied to a regime change. Are you hearing me? Listen, look at China. China is not a democracy. It's not. Is China a democracy? It's not. But they're so highly prosperous. The democracy index of China, produced by the Economist Intelligence Unit for China, gives China a 2.26 out of 10. Meaning, that classifies China as an authoritarian government. Authoritarian government. What does authoritarian mean? An authoritarian government is a government which enforces strict obedience to authority. Strict obedience to authority. Even at the expense of personal political freedom. When you go to China, there are security cameras everywhere. They literally want to dominate you and control you and know all your moves. China is not democratic, but they have prospered tremendously. What is their prosperity tied to? It is tied to their entrepreneurial background. For example, the history of the Chinese foreign trade started way back. It didn't start yesterday. It's a culture, it's a mindset. These guys have been doing business for thousands of years. Not just trade within, but trade with other nations. It's a culture. It's a mindset. Are you hearing me? Actually, according to history, the Chinese Han Dynasty started trade in 206 BC. The Western Han Dynasty in 206 BC. That's 206 years before Jesus was born. These guys were already into international trade. And It baffles me how our youth in Uganda think that it's the government to give them money. The Han Chinese dynasty officially opened trade with the West in 130 BC, and the Sikh trade routes remained in operation in use for over 2,000 years. For almost 2,000 years, these guys were doing international trade, and they began to pass this trade from generation to generation, from children to grandchildren to great-grandchildren. It's the culture and mindset of the general population that truly develops a nation. That's why the government has been pumping millions and billions to nads and to farmers and for 25 years. But there's no change. Why? Because the people are thinking wrong. If we still think that Uganda's solutions are all with the president, then we're still in trouble. Even if the government changes, we are still in trouble. I know that the government plays a major role in development. I know that very well. Okay, don't misunderstand me. But listen, true sustainable development starts with the mindset, the culture of the populace, of the population. Are you hearing me? Therefore, look at where you are right now. And you can become rich even though the president has refused to go. I'm telling you this, you can, instead of using violence and force. If you look at the streets in Kampala, and then you look at the streets of Shanghai, if you go to Shanghai and you look at the streets, you will quickly see the contrast or the difference in the growth rate of both countries. The contrast, you just see it just immediately. Because on the Shanghai streets, you find that there are new lines every few weeks, every few months on the map of Shanghai. But the streets of Kampala, when you come back a few months, even a few years later, the streets are literally the same. The Chinese have invested in Germany. They've invested in Holland, in Belgium, Istanbul, France, Spain, Malta, UK. Actually, in UK, like all the ports in UK have Chinese ownership. These guys have strategy. They developed so fast because of the attitude, and their leaders got the attitude from their culture. They've been doing it for over 2,000 years. Even the presidents have that culture in mind. What kind of presidents are we raising? And also, we need to be wise in the way we deal with China. Our culture needs to develop. And apart from the culture being developed to an entrepreneurial mindset, maximizing of globalization of small businesses, that is the next trend in business now. We also must wake up to what China is doing. Because if we do not wake up, China may subdue our economy to their own advantage. We must make counter proposals, like other countries have been doing, to invest in their countries too. China exported tea, sugar, porcelain, spices in the silk trade, and it's been a culture to their neighbor. They didn't wait to export big things. They export simple things. We can prepare our youth. Instead of putting them into violence and political excitement, let us invite them and prepare their mindset and teach them to tap into globalization of small businesses. We need to tell our youth these kind of things and teach them that. Give them the right passions. Are you hearing me? We should also import our things to China. We must have good trade deals with them. Are you hearing me? So I have a lot of things to say, but please, this is the first video. You can watch the second, where I'll be expounding on this video. So thank you so much. I love you.